Beijing's claim to impose its national security legislation onto Hong Kong practically shook the geopolitical ground last night. International observers, foreign officers, those who have been following the Hong Kong situation closely, and us as Hong Kongers despaired at the announcement. The death knell of the one country, two systems framework has rung officially, definitively, once and for all. This decree and its introduction are worse than how Article 23 could have been. It has completely bypassed the Hong Kong legislative process. This precedent unlocks a means for Beijing to foist any laws on Hong Kong, including Article 23, as they please. Consulting Macau's example, their former chief executive, Mr. Edmund Ho Hao Wah, in a gig to display his loyalty to Beijing, forced Article 23 upon the city without any previous warning and despite continuous public dissent. Its enforcement allows the police to raid private premises without a search warrant from the court, based on international security grounds. Although the legislation has never invoked thus far, its mere existence has had a chilling effect on Macau's civil life and killed the vibrancy of Macau society. Exactly because of this ingenuity of the Hong Kong protesters and their resistance movements, the unprecedented power that we have harnessed, and the noise we have made on the international stage, the CCP now truly fears about the loss of the integrity of its territory and the stability of its regime. Over the past decades, the CCP has suppressed its people, the rights to live freely, their free will, and their civil liberties at the cost of human lives, precisely following the fashion of other power-thirsty tyrants throughout history. The universal values that Hong Kongers have fought for with our own bodies stand in the way of the plan to actualize the modern monarchical regime. Hong Kong, unlike Macau, came into sharp international focus for its international relevance. All the stakes it holds as a global financial center, and the strategic role it has in the trade war between China and the United States. The CCP itself is under a fair amount of attack from the global community for its responsibility for the development of the pandemic, as well as the internal, as the country itself also suffers gravely from it. This makes it ever more imperative that it stabilizes sovereignty over its territory by starting to take down all that threatens its existence with an iron fist. Despite impending international sanctions and despite its potential fall alongside those it tries to bring down. The Citizen Press Conference also hereby solemnly declares the death of the high degree of autonomy promised, as Hong Kong would be but a piece of scorched earth under this national security decree. When the news broke yesterday at the NPC press conference yesterday, the Hong Kong currency value dropped by 50 cents. The Hang Seng Index also plummeted 700 points. This reflects how the news brought a panic attack on the financial market. Hong Kong got its foothold in the international scene by adopting a common law system, by being different from China. Once this crumbles, the trust foreign investors place in Hong Kong will crumble as well. Once they leave, Hong Kong will lose its competitiveness as a free and open economy. Universal values such as freedom and democracy are dying for air and little space that they have been scorched into by the CCP. The CCP is destroying everything Hong Kong was built upon and all that built it, including the qualities that people embody and the ethnic solidarity. Who exactly does the flattened Hong Kong benefit? We would never know. This move of Beijing was cruel and untimely. The CCP circumvented the let go while pretending that Hong Kong citizens didn't exist. And they took strides to assert the dictatorial hold on Hong Kong. They have acted like they have nothing to lose and nothing to hide. They no longer have any consideration for optics or morals, but expansionism and the engulfment of the rules-based international order. The lack of shame has made them unstoppable. But are they absolutely undefeatable? For months, Hong Kong protesters have stood by the philosophy to let Hong Kong burn to the ground along with the CCP. and then build it back up from its ruins without the CCP. Now that Hong Kong has started burning, we should proceed to link up ever more closely with the international community and let them do the necessary blow to the CCP. The United States Senate overwhelmingly approved legislation on Wednesday that could lead to Chinese state-owned or directed corporates to be banned from listing on US stock exchanges. The mood has changed so much over the past weeks between the world's two largest economies that if Beijing confirms the national security law for Hong Kong might lose its special status with the US. This can turn everything into nothing financially for China. At a time where they need the Hong Kong market for the initial public offerings more than ever before, this would be the application of the if we burn, you burn with us sentiment that we have so anticipated. What we may do as locals would be to explain to Wall Streeters and the business world how the national security decree plunges the free market into the deep, that they would also fall victim to the CCP regime, and that this would hurt them more than losing trade links with China. The CCP brutal intervention of Hong Kong's autonomy is to be met with strong international resistance, notably pointed out by the US President Donald Trump that the US will react strongly if China continues with its plan on Hong Kong. The Citizen Press Conference welcomes reassessment of the Hong Kong separate customs territory and actions including but not limited to a wholesale repeal of the 1992 US Hong Kong Policy Act. Furthermore, we call for concrete actions from the global community as the CCP violates the Sino-British Joint Declaration, a UN-launched international treaty, still in effect but which the CCP claimed expired. In particular, as a signatory, the UK should actively explore options such as second citizenship and right to abode for British nationals, overseas passport holders, as well as to actively reflect the ground situation of Hong Kong to international organizations such as the UN. Living in a time where the CCP progressively infringes upon our freedom, we must not pretend that it is business as usual out there, thinking that one can linger around and live under the CCP's inhumane authority. One country, one system is already upon us. This is the environment in which we will continue our resistance from now on, for which we must be prepared. Even if Hong Kong became fully swallowed by the communist China and we are all forced to flee, we must always remember that we are the people of freedom, and we will plant the seed of freedom wherever we roam, in whichever future that transpires. While our fear of the national security law is justified, one must remember that democracy never comes for free. We have seen how the Taiwanese did it on the long and enduring path in martial law era Taiwan. We have seen the sacrifice made by South Koreans in the countless blood spills during the Gwangju democratization movement. No one can make history on their own. Liberate Hong Kong, the revolution of our time, is more than a slogan. It encapsulates within a collective vision of how each and every one of us may finally live free without fear in Hong Kong, and this idea is bulletproof. For our children and their children, we must step up and fight back on every front and any means necessary. The light of the flame we start will propagate through time and space. Let's promise to each other that we won't back down until the last moment. The Citizen Press Conference promises all that as long as the last man is still standing, we will stand with you. So, soon enough, we will meet at the bottom of the pot, mask-free and triumphant, when our city is finally freed.